Oh, actually, for a second. Maryam, did you actually just start recording there?
Yeah.
There, because you told me that and I forgot. What a way to start the show already. There we go.
I thought I'm not going to interrupt your flow. I'm just going to hit record.
There we go. Well, I managed to interrupt it already. See, my mind. I'm such an entrepreneur here. I lose the thought within 1 second. I'm going to reload and we're going to start again. Hey, how's it going, everybody? Thanks for joining us for What Keeps You Up at Night, Entrepreneurship During Challenging Times, episode 22. Hard to believe that we're in week 11 already with what we're creating here. And what we create here, if you haven't had a chance to see one of our shows before, is just like our sign says behind us with Startup Vancouver, is to connect you, our audience members, our viewers, to all the awesome people, the resources, events, both locally, regionally, provincially, and nationally. This is a national show. Our guests today are from Vancouver, where we are. So it is kind of a Vancouver-centric show today. But we have two amazing guests here today. And I'm going to introduce them in a second. I'm first going to share my screen here so we can get going. Maryam, I think I'm finally getting a little bit better at this. There, I think I got the screen there. Yeah. So today, we have Kristin Constable, who's the founder of Winning Academy. She wears many more hats than that. And of course, I couldn't fit them all on there. Otherwise, the words would have taken up the entire screen. But I'm going to leave my friend Maryam Mobini, our co-host on Thursday, here to help articulate that and have a chat with Kristin about all the good things that she does and what keeps her up at night and her clients up at night and the opportunities that she sees. We also have Bhavik, Chauhan, who is also a man that wears many hats here. But we're going to focus today on the work he does as the BizDev VP with Old Kent Road, or OKR Financial. And they do amazing work for entrepreneurs to bridge finance, along with many other things that I'm going to let him do the pitch rather than me kind of confuse it or get it wrong when we actually have a chance to talk in a minute here. As we always start out, how's everybody hanging in there? These are, I wouldn't say crazy times. These are challenging times. These are tumultuous times. These are interesting times. And we're, gosh, almost month 5 into kind of the COVID times here. And from all of us here at Startup Vancouver, myself and Maryam, we just want to make sure that you're staying active, you're staying engaged, you're staying safe. Let's all please take a deep breath and still kind of stick with it here as far as being responsible. Even though everybody's getting pent-up demand to get out there and maybe kind of take the needle a little bit too far than we should. So let's everybody do the right thing here, including ourselves here, to still be measured so we can try to get back to opening things up as much as possible, as quickly as possible. So once again, we hope everybody's doing okay, and what we do on the show here, we keep it a little bit light and have some fun, that this kind of uplifts you a little bit with your day. So with Startup Vancouver, of course, which I am the community leader of, one of over 40 community chapters of Startup Canada, the voice of the 3.5 million entrepreneurs in the country. Best way to get a hold of us? Social media. That's where we are very active, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. Also on LinkedIn, we got our community page there. You can connect with us also there to have a conversation. And also on YouTube with our channel there, which all the recordings, including the one we're doing right now, we will be posting all of those. So if you really enjoyed this, please listen to some more. Please watch some more. And while you're there, please subscribe. We actually set a goal to get 100 subscribers here in our first month of having the YouTube channel. We have to hustle to get that. So hey, please, if you like what you're seeing here, please subscribe, write a comment, like what we're doing. It all helps us move forward. And the bigger the audience, the more awesome content we can create for you, which is why we are here. Again, this is an interactive show. If you're joining us on Zoom, in chat, if you're joining us on Facebook Live, in comments, please post your questions. While we're talking to our guests here, we will be happy to ask them on your behalf, or we'll even open up the mic for you if you'd like that too, if you're not too shy. We do have a charity partner that we're very proud to be involved with, and that is jack.org. And jack.org is an advocacy group that supports mental health awareness for youth at a grassroots level, that young people are the ambassadors that help shed the stigma of mental health for youth in high schools, universities, and across the country in our society. So as I mentioned, I'll be speaking with Bhavik. a little bit later and all the good things that he's doing with OKR Financial. And to start things off, though, with Kristin, we're going to talk to her, or in fact, Maryam is going to talk with her. And on that note, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I am going to turn it over to Maryam Mobini to start off our show here. Maryam, take it away.
Thank you so much, Colin. And thanks to everyone for being here today. Kristin, it's a pleasure to be speaking to you today. And I would like you, if you can, tell us a little bit about what you do. And then we're going to dive in the topic that I'm really passionate about. And I know you help a lot of entrepreneurs to with that particular topic that we're going to introduce soon. So can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, definitely. So I call myself a whole life leadership and business coach. And the idea around whole life leadership is that I have a firm belief that we are leaders in all areas of our lives. And when we can show up like that, we have way more impact and influence. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs, that is what we do this work for, is to have impact and to create ripple effects in the world through our work. And so I love working with entrepreneurs to help them bring their ideas to life and to create those ripple effects in a way that's in alignment with their values and what matters to them most. So in a nutshell, that's kind of what I get up to, along with many other things, as Colin already alluded to.
Yeah. And I love that. And you're saying that, business is a spiritual game, and truly is. And as a founder, you have to know so much about yourself. And that brings me to the topic of choosing between being a startup founder or being a solopreneur, maybe starting off at a path of being a startup founder, and maybe halfway recognizing that maybe, managing a team is not your thing and you want to be a solopreneur. So how do you help entrepreneurs make that decision of which one, which role would be best for them?
Yeah, really good question. And one I come across so often, and even just from a personal journey perspective, I've done both, and I can see which ones, there's like anything, there's positives and there's pluses and downsides of both. And it really does depend on like multiple things, but personality is one of them. Is like, what is your personality? And do you like working with and through others in more of a collaborative way? Or are you the kind of person who has this like vision for what you want to create and you're firm and focused on that? And so that'll really depend on how you work with others. And there's lots of different ways that you can work with others. It doesn't need to be in that co-founder kind of relationship. Mm-hmm. You can get support from people through many different ways. So one of the ways that I work in my business is through like affiliates and community partners. And that allows me to grow and expand my business, but in a way that also allows the vision to stay pretty clear. And so that's one thing to think about, is personality. The other thing is the business. Like not every business idea is going to be for each model. So you really want to look at what is the business that you're going into and what kind of, what does it best suit for? Is it more of a solopreneur? Are you more a server, like a service provider? Or are you someone who needs to build a team around you to make this thing happen? And one of the other things I love people to think about when they think about going into partnership with people is that it is like a marriage. And for any of you that have like gone into business partnerships with people, you will know what I'm talking about, because often people don't think about it like that. They're like, oh, we've got this idea, let's go and let's just like, incorporate the business and get rolling. And that's kind of like meeting someone and then a week later getting married. And, in our personal relationships there, we'd be like, oh, like we actually have to look at, are our values aligned? Is our vision aligned? Do we have clear agreements on how we're going to work together if things go wrong? How would we dissolve this in a conscious way if things don't go right? So those are all the kinds of conversations you'd want to have with someone before getting into partnership with them, that I think is an important piece. So the decision is really around, it's not like either or, it's around an exploration, really, I think, around what's best suited for the specific thing that you're looking at.
I love that. And I don't think enough co-founders come together and at the beginning do exercises to see what each person's value is, and to see if their values even align, and to do self-exploration and to see whether they're going to be a good fit. And we know them oftentimes that, startups don't work out because the co-founders' relationship don't work out. And I'm wondering when, entrepreneurs come to you with their ideas, what is a pattern? What is a commonality that you're seeing that they're unable to execute on their ideas? What is holding them back?
Good question. So some of you may be familiar with the book Rocket Fuel. And there's this idea of like an integrator kind of role. So someone who can help take this idea that so many entrepreneurs have is you've got these big ideas, and that's beautiful. And ideas alone don't actually create a business. So whether it's yourself and getting really disciplined with systems and processes so that you can actually do the work, and that could be looking something as simple as time blocking, right? Taking an idea and time blocking it out. Or it could be looking at how can you find someone who can support you in that integrator role, whether it be a co-founder or whether it be, support a team that you lead through that. But it's the integration of things, I think, that is the thing that holds people back. And it's also so many ideas. So it's like, okay, we start on this one and then we get sidetracked or shiny object syndrome onto something else. So it's like seeing one thing through before getting distracted by others is a common pattern that I see that comes up.
Yeah. Really good points. Thank you so much. And just going to ask one more question before we open it up to the audience. What is one book that you would recommend?
Well, I guess because I just mentioned that one,
Rocket
Rocket Fuel. Yeah. Just because of the topic that we're talking about, it's really helpful. And it's really helpful to see where you fall on that spectrum of like, are you more of the ideas person or more of the integrator? Because just because you're an entrepreneur doesn't mean you're the ideas person. You could also be an integrator and be an entrepreneur, and you need some support with more of that innovation piece of things. So yeah, Rocket Fuel would be a great one.
Great, thank you so much. And now I'm going to pass it on to Colin to see if there are any questions, or if you have any questions, and you're on mute, by the way.
There we go. Now I'm unmuted here. Trying to do too many things at once and doing them all poorly. What an entrepreneur I am here. So don't have any questions in chat quite yet. But Kristin, I wanted to ask you personally now, over the last 5 months, if you rewind the tape, let's say early March when things started to hit and very quickly unfolded here, what did you do with your consulting business? What did you find that you had to change or recalibrate in order to survive? And then what opportunities did you see that were perhaps not there before that's allowed you to thrive?
Yeah, great question. So just like everybody at the beginning, I was so uncertain, right? I had clients dropping out, being like, we can't continue anymore. And not knowing where the bottom of that was interesting to have to navigate for sure. And the practices that I used were, I like in those moments, I'm like, what would I tell a client to do right now? And I have to practice those on myself. And what I asked myself is what do people need right now more than ever? So rather than what do I want to do is like, what do my clients need? So changing my offerings to be less locked in around longer periods of time and being a resource for them in the moment to support them through like more acute things that they were dealing with was one of the things I adjusted. And then the other thing, so that was kind of like in the moment, how do you survive? But then there is also the exploration around, well, what's possible now? And doing the real exploration around from this place, what's possible. And one of the things that came out of that exploration that's actually allowed me to thrive over the last few months is that people now more than ever from my experience are really wanting to get connected to meaning and purpose and do purposeful work in the world. And so that was really what came out of that exploration is what's possible is actually amplifying that part of my business and that message. So kind of doing what's needed in the moment to survive. And I call it our survival dance, but then also the soul work, which is our soul dance and what really is like we can uniquely bring to the world is a great place to look at.
I love that. And I'm curious here with the work that you do as a leadership coach, do you find it tricky? I don't like that term to eat your own dog food of what you create, but I guess for you in some ways, you have to be careful that you don't end up being, what did he say? The best barber in town that has the worst haircut, right?
Totally.
Like, how have you kind of looked internally and said, okay, these are the things that we project, coach others to do. Were you even more intentional than to make sure yourself as you were moving forward and recalibrating things and testing and experimenting and starting to get out there and do even more customer validation and conversations? Were you being even more intentional, or were you doing just the same as you had always done?
No, definitely being more intentional. And I'm a big believer in support, right? So just because I am coaching others doesn't mean that I don't have a coach myself. So I'm surrounded by support, a support system that can help me in looking in the mirror and actually doing the work. So it's really easy to dodge those real deep, important questions when you don't have those people being like, oh, have you looked at this? Or like, are you operating from a place of abundance versus fear? All of those things. So getting that support is really important as well for me.
Love that. Love that. So, well, Maryam, Kristin, thank you for the conversation there. Once again, anybody both on Facebook watching there and also on Zoom with our attendees here, you have questions, and even at the end here, if you have something pops in your mind, you want to ask Kristin a question, if we have time, we'll squeeze it in and make sure that your voice is heard. So now we're going to switch over to our second guest here with Bhavik Chauhan, and he, as I mentioned, is the VP of Biz Development of OKR Financial, Old Kent Road Financial. So once again, without me trying to explain what they do, I would give him that opportunity first to let all of our viewers know, all the entrepreneurs out there, of all the great things that benefit our innovation and entrepreneurship community that OK Road Financial does.
Sure, thanks, Colin. So thanks for having me. So OKR Financial, we do a support network where we advise, whether it's a pre-concept idea or you just started out, on how to maximize on government funding to grow your business without giving your company away too early. So a lot of times when you have an idea, you need to understand how can you navigate this and just run. So we're beyond just financing. So we finance government programs. That's an asset that you can utilize to get non-dilutive financing. And we sort of advise you, help you grow, and explore this without giving away equity too early. So that's what we specialize in. I do wear loads of hats, but my background is I ran one of the largest firms that did shred and government grants consulting. So I'm very well versed, and now can advise companies on where to navigate to sort of maximize on that with our financing solutions.
Got it. So for all of our entrepreneurs out there, and you touched on this, but just to really just clarify that, at what stage or various stages across the spectrum are companies and entrepreneurs in your wheelhouse where you can help them, add value for them, and also add value for yourself?
Well, from the beginning. So when they have an idea. So if they have an idea and they're 4 or 5 months away from actually getting it going, getting the company incorporated, it's good to have a conversation of what's the path? How do I get there? So I deal with those guys. And when it's value to us is really when they get to that stage where they need the money, where they need the cash to get growing, what can they utilize? So the earlier the better, but that way, they can show them the right path. And then when they're there, that's where it comes with value to us. It comes around full circle, I see. So
right.
With what we do.
Got it. So let's use, rather than you providing an example of one of your clients, because there may be some NDA issues there. So let's use myself as a persona when I wear one of my other hats here as an entrepreneur in the sport innovation space. We're at that early stage with this sport technology piece that we're bringing to market that now happens to be on hold because this little thing called COVID means people aren't gathering for events. But right now, I'll be honest, we're kind of chicken and egging it right now, where we've built our minimum viable product. We've tested that. We can look at getting some angel investing, but to be honest, it'd be better if we can get to that next level to build our commercialized minimum viable product and get it ready to go. So let's say if we needed $200,000, $300,000 for runway over 6 months in order to get us ready for commercialization, where then the valuation will be worth more. So we're not diluting what we have, because right now it's just past that ideation stage and not ready for commercialization. So what would, let's say, the opportunities for myself as an entrepreneur with our company and our product as we're bringing that to market over the next 12 months?
So the first thing was we'd have a call. You'd be talking to me first, and we'd talk about, okay, where's the spend going to be? What do you need to spend money on to get you to the MVP stage, or get this commercialization project on the road before you start raising equity? So we look at every sort of non-dilutive option that's out there. And if you haven't already looked into, there's over 2,700 government-funded programs. Most companies will probably utilize 2 or 3 because they don't know where they are. They're not sure. So that's where I come in and say, okay, look, let's have a look at the whole big picture. What are you spending on? What do you really need the money for? And if we add it up, and it could be close to maybe $500,000, and you really need about 300. You said 200,000. That could be good enough for us to say, okay, OKR can help you finance that, or I can introduce you to a specialist that can help you get approved on that government grant. 90% of the government programs are a dollar-to-dollar match. So what happens with many startups is they don't have the cash flow for that final piece of doing the dollar-to-dollar match. So that's where they sort of fall off the IRAP programs or various other R&D or commercialization programs. I can provide you a letter of intent to say we will provide you the matching funds. So that's your cash. So you can get over that little hurdle. And then when you need the cash, we can provide that to you. So that's the number one thing, is to explore that non-dilutive. And then there's industry loans. There's other ways of financing non-dilutive through purchase orders or AR, inventory management, depending on what you're doing. With yourself, it's probably more on the commercialization side. And it could be something to do with partnership. And there's options out there that you may not have discovered in your own or found through your research, which typically with founders, I find they go, go, go. And they don't look at the big picture of what else can we tap into, because they just don't have the time or the resource. So just take a little bit of time, have the discussion, and then you can point it in the right directions with people we work with or contacts that I have to say, this is where the money is for what you're trying to do.
I love that, because one of the issues, and myself once again as an entrepreneur, and I hear this through the hundreds and hundreds of entrepreneurs that I meet across the country here, and there seems to be this overarching issue that it's just so overwhelming. You only have so much time, as you said. You're going a million miles an hour, and there's so many programs that in a way you're you're overwhelmed and paralyzed by choice, and also knowing what programs are the right time. So even having a phone call with you or a virtual cup of coffee, I think for all the entrepreneurs out there, it sounds like you're open to take those calls or take those emails.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, and I know from ourselves, we've been in the IRAP funnel for the last 24 months now, and they've been wonderful. We have an advisor, and she's amazing. But I'll be honest, we wasted time. It wasn't their fault. We were asking for something too early because we didn't understand at what stage and really what their performance metrics were for success for them. So we approached them and spent probably, I don't even want to add up the hours, probably the equivalent of like hundreds of hours of work so far. And we were a year too early where we should have been focusing elsewhere. So opportunity lost there for our business. So it sounds like with what you offer also, as far as being able to help entrepreneurs at whatever stage through the labyrinth and through the different stages of what's right at the right time for them.
Exactly. So, I mean, the other thing with the government grants landscape is really interesting is that not programs aren't available all year round. Sometimes they have different windows of opportunity, and it's first come, first serve. So sometimes it's about being ready for that window of opportunity. So for example, IRAP's budget starts April 1st. Typically in VC, by the 5th of April, the money is already pre-allocated. And you're like, we don't have any money available at the moment. So if you were ready in February or March, when the window of opportunity, you'd be first to tap in. And that's with most programs. And as I said, I think where OKR's found a niche to help startups is most of these companies don't have money for the matching fund. So a lot of the companies that get this grant are the larger companies that have revenue, they're well ahead. And the government doesn't really like giving money to startups because you've got to think of the government as an investor. And if you're going to invest in a company, you want to see a Canadian company grow Canadian, hire Canadian. And there's a lot of companies out there that have great ideas, but they want to flip them too quickly. They don't have that vision and plan to grow in a Canadian company. So you've got to be able to showcase that. And as a startup, as I said, they don't think that far ahead, but the government has a mandate to say, we want to see Canadian companies grow. So they get that advice, pre-concept, plan it that way, they'll probably be more successful in actually getting some funding.
Right, and that's that classic chicken and egg of, valley of death or whatever you want to call it for most entrepreneurs. And I can put up my hand when you're talking about that with what we're doing. It would be so much easier if I had $10 million sitting somewhere after some tech exit that I had. I don't think, unless someone forgot to tell me the money was wired, so we're that stage also. We're still being scrappy, and we've just bootstrapped it so far, and that's slowing us down, even though we know with customers that love what we're doing between Cineplex and the PGA Tour, and it's there. So it's really frustrating too that that infusion of capital isn't there. And so many entrepreneurs, and you've seen this, and not that there's anything wrong with actually getting getting capital through angel investors and we're friends with Valhalla and some of the other ones that are out there, and they're wonderful. But there are other options. And I think a lot of people get over romanticized watching too many episodes of Shark Tank and Dragon's Den, that's the only option. And it sounds like, is it fair to say with OKR Financial, as part of your service offering is bridge financing for entrepreneurs? Did I phrase that correctly? Or maybe you could articulate that.
That's the right way. So for when we utilize the government program, it's bridge finance. It's a short-term loan to get in, get out, utilize it to fast track your commercialization or the technology. That's the idea of what OKR does, bridge financing. And then to sort of wrap this up with what OKR is doing now is we just launched our equity and turnaround investment fund now as well. So we're a private fund. That's how we operate. So now we're actually looking at companies that we're lending money to. We have inside information, so how they're growing. So if we work with you, we know where you're going, where your market is. We could be your first point of actual equity investment when the timing's right to invest, and provide you board of advisors or advise you who you should have on your board to attract better investors, which is how a lot of companies make good raises when they have a good team or good board of advisors behind them to make that raise. So definitely a core business is doing the bridge financing to get that quick cash in, and we normally turn around an application within 10 days. That's how quick we can deliver money.
And it sounds like, as entrepreneurs yourselves at OKR Financial, it sounds like you've seen a gap in the market over the last couple of years, where with BDC, and we love BDC and we partner with them on events, but I've always found the message they send is a bit off. It's just off. Whereas you think they're the bank for entrepreneurs. So you think, oh, any entrepreneur at any stage. And I know so many people have reached out to them, and it's once again just wasting their time, because really they are for early stage growth companies, scale ups, and small and medium sized enterprises that already have recurring revenue. So is it fair to say that you've really found that gap, that in between, that no one is desperately looking to get serviced, even though there is more risk there, but you've managed to mitigate that risk through the offering?
We've mitigated the risk because we're entrepreneurs and angels ourselves. The management team are all heavily involved in different ventures all the time. And I think we work with BDC as well. So BDC know they've got rules and regulations they've got to follow. They've got a mandate. So they can't really go outside that box, but we can be creative. We can figure out solutions. Like if a company needs to draw down on accrued shred, for example, R&D spend, they don't have to wait for a whole year when they file. We can help them get money quicker. They could get it within 3 months of R&D spend to get some cash flow going if they need it. BDC couldn't do that. It's like, that's not right. It's not in the box. Doesn't check the right requirements.
And if I get this correct, are you like a one-stop shop in the sense that once you actually have that money, then you can double down on that and help with shred? So let's say if it was $200,000 and 150 of that went to R&D, then you'd be able to apply that for shred credits that you would then help facilitate and then get back in the next year. Is that
exactly? So we could help facilitate in financing, but we wouldn't do the shred claim. We would we would recommend you working with a current shred consultant, whether it's an Aiming, a Boast, or a Benefact, or even a PwC, Deloitte, depending who you're working with. So we can if you don't have someone that's advising you and helping you tap into this, we can introduce you to consultants. And what I like to do with my background is introduce you to a consultant that understands your industry. And the importance of that is when they do a tech interview, they don't have to Google Translate what you're saying to them. You want someone that understands what you're actually doing. So it's less impact on yourselves. You don't have to waste 20, 30 hours trying to explain this is what we're doing with our technology. They get it within an hour and they can write a claim and don't take it too much of your time. And that's who you want to work with.
Amazing. So it sounds like the overarching theme of today's show is collaboration and partnerships. I know, Kristin, you've talked about that. Bhavik, you've talked about that, what you do with OKR Financial. And as entrepreneurs, as the saying goes, if you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, you go together. And it sounds like everybody here, all four of us here in our little Brady Bunch four squares here, all embraces that. Wow, this half hour is just flowing right by. I was going to ask one question for you here. It's like hold up your arm there. So
that one there, yeah.
What is that keeping you up at night?
Is this keeping me up at night? No, this is not keeping me up at night. Actually, it does. I'm getting nightmares. I don't know when I'm going to go back to play golf. So,
I know. Well, as I just found out, we're both golfers. We're going to go to the golf course, and actually, Kristin's going to get invited out there too. And Maryam, because you've never golfed before, we're going to bring you out too. We're at the top of the hour, but thing is, we can run a minute or two late. There's nothing that says we can't. And Maryam, I believe you had a question that you wanted to ask.
Yeah, I think so. One of the issues that we were talking about, the project that I was working on and speaking to other entrepreneurs as well, is about, of course, the timing of all these grants that are coming up and being on top of it, and all of us like keeping an Excel sheet and trying to share it, like when are all these deadlines coming up, and then you miss it, right? Yeah. And one thing I missed in your conversation, and you might have mentioned, but I'm wondering if you also help with writing those grants.
So, as I said, I wear many hats. So I have my own company that does a little bit of that. But
Yeah.
I would recommend, again, a specialist. There's a ton of firms out there, and then some of them specialize in certain industries. Work with them. most of them work on contingency fees. So if they're not successful in getting you the money, they don't get paid. So
I think granted.ca, right?
That's one of the firms that's Vancouver based. They love doing agricultural programs. So they're really successful. But again, as I said, there's many firms. It depends what you do and then where my recommendation would come from. So if you're in software, I'd have a certain requirement. If you're in engineering, there's a certain grant writer. I'd say they're the best because they do this all the time. So they know how to place it. They know what the government's looking for in the application, so it's placed correctly. So I would hire a specialist, and on a success fee basis, it really is worth it because they stay on top of it. And the biggest thing about grants is the reporting. So let's say you get approved $500,000. You don't get the money up front, you get it as you spend. But if you fail to report 1 month, they will cut the funding. So typically most of these firms, included in their fee is the reporting as well. So it takes that work away from you to figure that out, right?
We'll definitely get in touch.
There we go. And I think, Bhavik, I think you and I are going to have a chat too, whether it's not going to be on the golf course because your arm isn't ready for that for another month or so. But I think you and I are going to circle back and we're going to have a chat too. And I do encourage all the entrepreneurs out there that are watching here today to reach out to OKR Financial if you want to do that through us. I know that Maryam's already put in chat. She's put the links for OKR Financial there, so you can take a look at what they're doing, and we will do that in the post engagement in the show. Also, wow, what a show today! We can keep going. This could be like a 2-hour show easily. I think we're just getting started here, but we'd like to keep it short and sharp here. I will not be doing my musical shout out today because we didn't get any donations to Jack.org today, and hey, I don't give that away for free. You know what? You got to earn that, people. So I got to hold off on that today. But to end the show, I am going to turn it over to Maryam for some final words. But Kristin, Bhavik, thanks so much for being here. Really enjoyed meeting you both today.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Maryam.
Thanks, Colin, and thank you so much for our guests for being here. It was such a pleasure to speak to you. We learned a lot, and everyone can get in touch with you. Your information is going to be included in Facebook and also in the Zoom chat, so that they can definitely get in touch. And you can catch us on Tuesdays at 12:30 with our other co-host Reza V, and myself on Thursdays at 12:30. So we look forward to seeing you next week. Have a wonderful day. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Thanks. Bye.